All right. Since I'm going to chair the first little bit of the meeting, and then as we go through the agenda, you guys can select a chair, or we can wait until the next meeting once you folks get to know each other a little bit better. But I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Wendy Cook. I'm the City Clerk and Director of Legislative and Court Services for the City of Barrie. Some of you have worked with me before. Some of you know me from elections. I just welcome to you all and thank you for your interest in wanting to participate on this committee. So I think the first line of business would be for everybody on the screen to introduce themselves and maybe just give a little bit of about your background, and we can go from there. So I'll do my little Brady Bunch read out of names, and we'll go from there. So we'll start with Steve because he's in the top corner of my screen right now. So
thank you, Wendy. I'm born and raised in Barrie all my life. I'm retired after 42 years in law enforcement career. I sit on certain provincial boards. I'm on the local public health board and on the College of Opticians. I'm vice chair of the Opticians College of Ontario. And I also sit on the Simcoe Muskoka Youth Justice Committee in Barrie. So.
Great, thanks, Steve. I'm going to go to Andrea next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Taylor. I am the Supervisor of Administrative and Support Services, supporting both legislative and court services as well as finance. So I am your go-to gal if you need materials or if there's any pieces that you want clarity on, and I will be that person that can kind of filter through and get it for you.
Thanks, Andrea. Danielle.
Hi, my name is Danielle Siegel. I am a human resources professional. I've lived in Barrie for about 9.5 years. I've worked in human resources for almost 24 years, and I'm currently an HR consultant, primarily for a company called True North HR Consulting. I also sit as a volunteer board member on Barrie Public Housing.
I just pulled a 2020 and forgot to unmute myself. Kelly Patterson McGrath, can you go ahead?
Thanks, Wendy. Good to see you. Hi, I'm Kelly Patterson McGrath. I've lived in Barrie for many years. I was an auxiliary police officer with the Barrie Police Service. My background is in strategic planning, facilitation, and I sit on the Busby Center Board of Directors, as well as the Active Transportation Sustainability Committee in Barrie, and was one of the founding members of the Barrie Urban Gardens Facebook group, which we created for COVID when COVID happened. So that's what my background is, and I'm looking forward to helping with this process.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Mifsud. I am the Supervisor of Financial Reporting and Policy, so I'll be supporting the committee from a finance perspective.
Thanks, Melissa. Brandy Lee, sorry.
Hi there. Either one's fine. I'm Brandy Lee Maxwell, and I am currently in human resources. I've been in it for quite some time, but I have dabbled in a few other things, such as marketing and operations management as well. And I'm currently working as the HR team lead for one of the mental health associations here in town.
Awesome, thank you. Chris.
Hi, everybody. Chris Rovert here. I'm the founder and president of Ravens Rock Wealth and Estate Planning. We specialize in mostly financial planning processes, mostly with estate planning, obviously, and reaching out to business owners as well. That's where our business acumen pretty much resides. I operate out of a home office here in Barrie, been a Barrie resident for the past 20 years, originally from the Niagara region, from Niagara Falls. No kids, just 2 Alaska Malamute dogs that we love getting out with, rollerblading, and pretty much that's about it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the experience.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Brian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian DeWolf-Smith. I'm the Manager of Compensation and Benefits here in the HR department at the City of Barrie, and I'm here to support the committee in a variety of ways, mostly related to discussions around compensation and also the benefits plan for counselors, and here to support you in terms of doing some surveys of other municipalities if you need to, or other research or analytics, that kind of a thing. So yeah, thanks.
Great, thanks, Brian. So I'm just going to start the meeting with a quick orientation presentation. A few of you have sat on city committees before, such as Kelly and Steve, but I just want to run through some of the obligations that you have as a member of a city committee. And just raise your hand or stop me as I'm presenting. We can go pretty casual on this. And I'm going to try and share my screen. I am usually on the other side of this and not presenting, so bear with me while I try and share my screen. Okay. So just to provide you an overview of what I'm going to go through today is the Council Committee Code of Conduct, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, just a little touch on our procedural bylaw, and the Integrated Accessibility Standard Regulation. Okay, so the Council Committee Code of Conduct, it augments the provincial laws and municipal policies and bylaws. Generally, it holds members of committees as well as members of council to a different standard that you have to have integrity, accountability, be transparent, maintain confidence of each other, abide by legislation, municipal legislation, and vary policies and procedures. You, as members of the committee, if you're found, for example, maybe insulting another committee member, insulting a member of the public, or just as a general example, somebody could potentially send a complaint to the integrity commissioner with respect to those behaviors. And she, because you're a member of a city municipal committee, she would be obligated to investigate it. So all those kind of complaints concerning the code of conduct are dealt with by the integrity commissioner. A copy of the code of conduct will be forwarded to you, and then you will be asked to sign an acknowledgement form to say that you have read the code of conduct and you acknowledge that you will basically abide by its process and rules. So the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, it's just generally when a member has a potential pecuniary interest. And that's just not yourself having a pecuniary interest. It could be a very close family member that also has a pecuniary interest, and it can be in the negative or positive. So it doesn't have to be because somebody's receiving money. It could be potentially because somebody's losing money, or it would affect their property value because of a decision that's made, for example. Changes since some of you have been on committees is now that the member, when they declare a potential pecuniary interest, must provide it in writing. And those documents are actually posted online, as we were required to do so under the Municipal Act. So what would happen is, if you know that you have a pecuniary interest on something that we may be discussing, you can contact Andrea ahead of time, and we can help you complete that form for your signature. And if it's a closed meeting, you must leave the meeting and not return. But in the Zoom format, it's a little bit different. When a member has a pecuniary interest, for example, when we do it at general committee or council, we ask that the member just turn their camera off. So then it shows that they're not participating in the discussion. So our procedural bylaw governs the procedures of the council and its committees. It provides for the mandates of all our committees, reference, advisory, special committees, and it also provides for the reporting structure for the committees. So it also provides for the rules of decorum and how the meeting processes. So it kind of gives the guidance to the rules of what the chair does, how the committee members interact with each other, and just general overall rules of procedure. So all meetings are open to the public. So right now we are on YouTube, so everyone is aware, and that's generally how our meetings will be, because within this environment, because we can't be in person, it would be like our doors in the boardroom are open. So that's why we do our meetings on YouTube. The notice of the meetings are going to be provided within 4 days, and all the agendas and minutes for this and all our committees are available on the City of Barrie website. So just some basic meeting procedures. The authority is vested in its members. All the members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. The meetings are conducted in order, fairness, and good faith, and we only deal with one agenda at a time. And our agendas, when they're set, we cannot add business to an agenda after the agenda is published. If anything needs to be considered or added, it would have to be discussed either at a special meeting or at the next meeting of the committee. So also majority rules. So when you vote, the majority wins, of course. The rights of the minority must be protected. So if somebody doesn't agree with what your decision is, and you voted against something, there still needs to be respect around the table, because each of you have your own opinion and your own thoughts on things. So generally, you know what, we have to accept what the decision of the committee is, whether you are in full agreement or not. And members, you all have right to provide information and discuss to help make well-informed decisions. And there could be the potential for delegations to come to this committee if invited by the committee. Generally, this one, not so much, because it's more that you as a committee are making decisions concerning council's compensation, their policies, their procedures, and staff are generally the best ones that can provide you the information and the guidance that you will need in this regard. So the role of the chair is to preside over the meeting and provide leadership to the committee, to maintain decorum, call the meeting to order, go through the agenda, and adjourn the meeting. The chair can also read the motions, will follow rules of debate, so he or she will call on people when it's their turn to speak, and decide on the order of the question. So if there's for example, if somebody puts a motion forward and then there's an amendment, you usually vote on the amendment first and then you vote on the main motion as amended. So the chair kind of determines that process and that order in the meeting. So your role as committee members is to attend so we can have quorum at the meetings, actively participate, because if you don't say anything, the meeting's not going to be fruitful or productive. Work with other members to, reach consensus, adhere to the committee's terms of reference, the procedural bylaw, the code of conduct, and any other legislation. For instance, the Municipal Act, that's pretty much our governing bylaw or governing legislation for most of our committees, and any other procedures that that would apply to the committee, such as your terms of reference. So the role of staff, we prepare the agendas, distribute the agendas and minutes, and give notice of the meetings. We assist the chair with procedural issues. So if the chair has a procedural question, myself or Andrea will jump in. We record the meetings and the minutes, and they will be distributed with the next agenda. And we provide guidance and information to the committee. So that's Melissa and Brian. Their role will be to provide guidance from an HR and a finance perspective. So the reporting structure for this committee is that they report right to general committee. So the minutes of this committee will go right to general committee, probably until you guys make a final decision on what the compensation or any policy decisions. That will be wrapped up in a final report from this committee. So your minutes will just be going to general committee, likely for information at this point. And then recommendations or whatever would go from general committee to Barrie City Council. So the mandate and the objectives of this committee are to determine a base compensation for the members of council. This is within your mandate, your terms of reference. Consider options for health and benefit plans. Review expense accounts, amounts, and policies. Examine remuneration for boards and commissions that are not a city committee. So, for example, right now, our members do not get compensated for any boards or commissions they sit on. Some municipalities do. So any remuneration that would be paid to the member is paid directly to the city of Barrie as a corporation. The only member of council right now that does get remuneration is the mayor for his participation on Electra. And that was voted on by council a few years back, that he would be able to receive compensation because the role of the mayor on Electra is quite extensive and quite time and cumbersome. So council felt that remuneration was appropriate in that regard. And any other compensation matters that the committee may want to consider. So the composition of this committee is 5 members, and all 5 members are in attendance today. The term of this committee will be until your final report to council. So we're hoping to get, the objective would be to get a report to council by early 2022. We would like the report done in advance of nominations opening for the election next year, because in that way we can communicate to candidates what generally in their information and their orientation material, we provide, what the compensation for members of council are and some information with respect to their expenses and whatnot. Those are general questions that we do have. So it would be nice to have all that in place so that we can give an accurate representation to what a member who is interested, or member of the public who's interested in running, so that they have a well-rounded knowledge about what they would receive as a member of council. If a member of this committee misses 3 consecutive meetings, they will be removed from the committee unless they get permission from the committee. And this committee does not have a budget because you're just doing a report, and we're not hiring a consultant or anything. Staff will pretty much do as Brian mentioned, we would do the legwork for any surveys that you would like done from other municipalities. So we will be circulating an accessibility training booklet to you all to review prior to the next meeting. And you have to sign an acknowledgement form to say that you have read and acknowledge the training and that you understand it. And then we will be circulating a member information form, which will be to allow us to share your contact information with the other members of committees, like phone numbers and whatnot. So we generally do like a list of the contact information for the members of the committee that we would share with everybody. So, but we want to make sure that you are okay with us doing that. So that's the end of my presentation. So I just wanted to know if anybody had any questions or any comments. Kelly?
Thanks, Wendy. That was great. Good info. I appreciate that. I guess one of my questions is, I know this committee was geared to start in May, and we're a little bit behind the 8 ball right now. We don't have that extra 3 months. So is there much leeway when it comes to your deadline?
Well, I would say probably we would try and aim still for the end of February 2022. The last committee was able to, from my recall, and I try and blank things out sometimes, but from my recall is that we did it within 6 months. So I don't think that it's a terrible timeline. And I think as long as we kind of keep focused on the matters at hand, I think we can definitely achieve what we a final report by the end of February. The intent is after this meeting, within the next few days, is we'll circulate all the current policies that this committee would be reviewing. And also we can provide samples, of survey questions that we used the last time that we sent out to comparator municipalities, so that the committee has those in advance of next committee to review. And then if they want to add any other questions, we can, but hopefully by the end of the next meeting is that Brian can, and our teams can go out and start surveying the municipalities so that we can get that information hopefully by the October meeting for you all. But my intent would be, and what we'd like to do is maybe have a meeting to focus on like health and benefits, then have a meeting or two to focus on the expense policy, and then have another meeting to focus on remuneration, like compensation and remuneration, and then start trying to come up with some decisions. If anything needs to be changed, maybe nothing needs to be changed with some of the policies we have, but that's up to the committee to decide and make recommendations to council. Any other questions? Okay. Next item on the agenda, I can't, my screen can't come up for it.
Sorry, Wendy, you cut out.
Oh.
The next piece on it would be the selection of chair.
Okay. Does this team feel comfortable selecting a chair today, or would you prefer to wait till the next meeting and have that as the first agenda item?
I think we should do it today.
All right. Does anyone want to volunteer to be chair? Steve or Kelly?
Yeah, I think Kelly's hand's up.
Okay. All right. So does anybody have objections to Kelly being the chair? No.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. All in favor of Kelly becoming the chair?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. We should probably appoint a vice chair just in case Kelly can't attend. And then we have somebody that could chair in her place. So anybody want to volunteer to be vice
Sure.
chair? Okay, so Steve, all in favor of Steve becoming vice chair? Great. Kelly, I'm going to pass the torch over to you to chair the rest of the meeting.
Great. Super. So one of the things that I was considering or thinking about, and I don't know if this is part of our mandate, was understanding if this role as council for this city, this growing city, would be considered full-time or part-time. And that was one of the items that was on my agenda to have a discussion around. And I don't know if that's a mandated issue, Wendy, if you could help me there.
Certainly something that we can survey our comparator municipalities about, whether or not their councils are considered full-time or part-time. Right now, Barrie's council is considered part-time. They don't have their own office staff. We generally in legislative services provide them any like admin support that they may need if they want to, or the mayor's office assists with their admin support. There's no, they don't have dedicated office space at City Hall to be like a full-time member of council. But I mean, in this virtual world, that probably is kind of a moot point right now. They do have a lounge that they can meet with residents at City Hall in non-COVID times. But right now they're considered part-time. And I think that maybe that would be something that you may want to survey current members of council on, whether or not they feel the role could be a full-time or a part-time. And I see Brian raising his hand, so he may want to jump in.
Sorry, Wendy, just and maybe this is inferred, but I just wanted to clarify. I believe the mayor's role is considered full-time and the councillors are considered part-time.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was speaking
Just
more
wanna
to
clarify
the
that,
members.
yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. I was speaking more to the members of council. The mayor is a full-time position, and he currently has 2 staff and 1 contract staff. So.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. So how does the committee feel about steps moving forward for today versus not having all that information that we're going to be having in our hands to read for the next meeting? So what's everybody's feeling about having any more conversation, or can we begin a conversation? I'd really like to see, one of the things that I'd be interested to see is that the last committee in 2014, I believe, Wendy, was it 2014 or 2018? 2017. Yeah. I'd be very interested to see what they recommended, what they came up with, number one, and also perhaps what the council implemented from that recommendation, if anything. So I think that if the committee is in agreement, if that's something else we can add to the pot.
Sure, we can, if there's any information outside of what expense policies and whatnot that we can circulate, like that we currently have today, if there's anything, like we could provide the committee with the questions that we circulated to the other municipalities last time in advance of the next meeting for you to review. The answers are probably outdated, so I probably would hesitate to provide the responses, but I could certainly provide the questions. The other thing is that the decision that the committee made the last time, their mandate was very narrow, narrow scope the last time. The last council only wanted the compensation committee to review compensation, their base compensation, nothing else. So that's what that's what the previous committee reviewed. This term, the committee scope is much wider, and the policies and processes are the HR benefits are all up for review and consideration. And staff would be providing probably some recommendations and some information on what they would like the committee to consider making in their recommendations to council.
That's great. Thank you, Wendy. Steve?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I wanted to get information from whether Brian can answer this question or not. The current council is currently, they're under the provincial government's regulations of the, is it 1.5 or 1% raise? Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I believe that the last, and Wendy, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we match the non-union raise for council members, not the provincial. So when our non-union group gets a raise, the council would get the same unless they vote against it, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, I just didn't know if the city was bound by the provincial legislation at all going into the future or not. So because that'll have a big bearing on the percentage of compensation to be decided. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Brian, for that information. So coming at this meeting with not a lot of information. So I was trying to gather some from Andrea, and thank you, Andrea, for sending that little bit that you did send. I appreciate it.
Kelly, Chris has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I don't see Chris on my, oh, there he is. Oh, he's got a very neutral hand. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Madam Chair. I like doing my homework prior to these meetings. So if we're able to, like as Wendy had mentioned out, when we break into specific topics for each meeting, I would prefer to have information beforehand, read it over, digest it, and then we can bring that information prior. So if we could just have that information, that would be really great and very, very helpful so that we can steer discussions around it. That's, I guess, just my 2 cents in that matter.
Thank you. Yeah, Chris, I would definitely agree with that, to have the information in our fingertips before we dove into some topics. So is there anything else that other than what Wendy mentioned that's pertinent for you guys to, or you folks to know before we set an agenda and a date for our next meeting?
Kelly, did you want to set like a specific day and time each, like for that we can carry through for the month? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So does this day and time work? Since we started with this one, does this Thursday at 2 p.m.?
No, not for me. I have a standing meeting at 2 o'clock on Thursdays, of course.
Okay.
Fridays typically work very well for me in the afternoons. I have a lot of admin work that I do in the mornings, but Friday afternoons I try to leave open.
How's Friday at 2?
I second the Fridays. So I'm good at that as well.
Yep. Fridays should be okay for me too.
Steve?
2 o'clock works.
Yep, Fridays are good for me.
Okay.
Which Friday of the month would you like? I'm just going to make the committee aware, and I mean, Brian and Melissa are more than could definitely carry the meeting without me. I'm away for 2 weeks in September from the 14th, and I will be coming back to the office on the 27th. But Andrea, Melissa, and Brian can certainly do the meeting without my being here.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm also away for one of those. Are we doing this as a weekly meeting? Sorry, Wendy, I wasn't clear.
I think we'll do it monthly right now, just because if staff are collecting information, like when we come back to the next meeting, we'll try and get some survey questions laid out from the committee. And then what we'll do is we'll need a couple weeks at least to get the answers from the other municipalities. So I think maybe the first couple meetings, we'll spread them out three to 4 weeks. But then if we get on a roll and we think we can get this mandate pushed out quickly, we may increase the frequency. And that can be based on us as staff providing that recommendation and the will of the committee.
Thank you, Wendy. There is a report as well by the AMCTO, which is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I believe this one was completed in 2018. I have a copy which I can forward to everybody. It gives you an analysis on the salaries of in different tiers. Wendy, what tier are we? I always forget. Tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3?
Oh my gosh, I'm not sure.
Are
you talking about the zone for AMCTO?
Yeah, like the size. I think it's related to the size, and it just it aligns with the compensation and the
we
amount.
Would be like Barrie's population would be 150,000. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the tiers. I haven't looked at them recently, so I'm not sure. But we also have a list of comparator municipalities that we always use when we do surveys. So it may not be within that tier, because you also have to take into consideration that Barrie is single tier versus a multi-tier municipality. So for instance, like a Markham or a Newmarket, they're in York region. So they also have the upper level of government, where some of their councillors would be both lower tier and upper tier. So Barrie's single tier, and our councillors only participate on the Human Services Committee at the county. They're not members of the county council. And the reason that our councillors participate on that Human Services Committee is because we contribute to that portion of their budget for social services and ambulance care. And oh my gosh, the other one I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's 3 of them. And so that we may want to look at the comparator municipalities that we use with HR, because they may be more compatible just because of the structure of our municipality.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, so if we want to look at a date for our next meeting, I am available on the 17th. I'm not sure if that works.
That works for me. At 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock. Is that enough time, Wendy? I don't want to cram staff. I know we're getting back into council and everything's getting back in September. So
no, we can work with you, Kelly, and set an agenda, and then we can talk offline. I can talk with Brian and Melissa about what information we can get to you. But basically, we could pick a topic, a couple topics for the next meeting, maybe the survey questions, so we can get those done. And then we can discuss maybe a couple other things to bring to the table, and then go from there. We could also, all the documents that we have we can circulate, like our council expense policy, the previous reports from the committee. The minutes are all online from the previous meeting, the previous committee. But again, they only focused on the remuneration and not any of the expense policies. So.
thanks, Wendy.
And Brandy has her hand up.
Yes, I see that. Brandy, go ahead.
Sorry, were you saying the 17th of this month, or the 17th of, because I thought we were I was confused. I thought we had mentioned doing at a 4-week interval for the time being.
Yes, 17th of September. I'm away on the 24th, so we could push it to the October if you'd like, if that works for you.
I don't know how everybody else feels. I am studying for the CHRL law exam that week, so like those 2 weeks. So I think free up as far as going through data and information. I'm not sure if I would have time to do that.
Steve?
What if you just picked the first Friday of every month in the afternoon?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah, that sounds great, Steve.
Yeah, I think that works for me as well.
So that will lead to October 1st then, is that correct? All right,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Wendy.
I was just going to say, we can double up on meetings during the month that the committee can, once we get all the information from the other municipalities for consideration. So if we're finding that if we're finding that we don't have enough time, we can always add extra meetings in the process as well.
Okay, thank you.
And will we be sent kind of the current information now, like the information that we're supposed to be reviewing? Like I mentioned in the information you sent, that there has been some feedback regarding the benefit plan. There's some policies. So we'll be able to have a look at all of that so we can kind of understand the current situation, maybe some specific things that people are looking for, even prior to looking at those survey questions, because we may want to change or develop new survey questions based on the information, kind of the status as it is today.
I won't, we as staff, we can give you as much information as we can prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
Like the policies and everything are written and everything like that. And then I can just work with Brian and Melissa to see if there's anything else that we can provide in advance of the next meeting.
Brandy Lee?
Just a quick question surrounding those surveys. When we survey the municipalities, do we have specific set ones that we look at? Like, do we only look at ones with similar population, or just ones that we have partnerships with within, the surrounding areas? Like, who do we look at, or who do we communicate with?
I'll let Brian answer that question, because HR is the kind of the keeper of the list of comparator municipalities that we use.
Yeah, we have a list of comparator municipalities that we use for staff. Wendy, I'm not sure we use the same list for we'll have the list of comparators on our last survey from the last compensation council compensation committee, so we can take a look at that. I'm not sure those two lists are the same, but generally it's a mix of similar size municipalities, same kind of tier municipalities that offer the same services. There might be, a smattering of smaller and larger in there just to sort of round the mix out. But the list that we used last time, it should be on that survey, and then you'll get a sense of sort of what kind of municipalities we're surveying.
I know we added into the mix. I think we used all the single tier municipalities from the last time. But I think we used the HR list as a starting point, and then Adam took away from it. So, but I have that list, so I will send it out to who we surveyed last time.
Wendy and Kelly, I'm not sure it's appropriate right now if I give a little bit of context into the benefits piece, or am I allowed to do that?
Sure.
I'm just not sure about the rules of municipal committees. So
no, you're just providing an update on the mandate of the committee, so that's fine.
Yeah. Just for the committee's knowledge, one of the issues around the benefits plan specifically, the benefits plan has remained the same for as long as I've been around, for over 8 years, so at least 2 terms and probably longer than that. It's remained exactly the same because we don't have, as staff, we don't have the authority or ability to make any changes to anything related to council, so that the things that are included in the benefits plan have remained the same over the years, while the other group benefit plans that the city have evolved over time based on collective bargaining negotiations and how the industry works and trends and all that kind of stuff. But the issue is that the council members pay 50% of the premium of the benefits plans if they elect to be involved in the benefit plan, which is it's a voluntary election. You don't have to be part of the benefit plan, but the issue is that their benefit plan has remained the same. Their entitlements have remained the same for years and years, but because the premiums are such a small group, the premium increase is tied to the other groups. So their premiums keep going up, but their benefits don't. And so that's kind of what one thing that was flagged as needing to be at least reviewed by this committee. Just the issue as a whole hasn't been reviewed by a committee in a while.
Thank you, Brian. That's really helpful. I'm sure that'll come out too in all the information that Wendy's going to be sending out to the committee as well, which will be great once we get our heads around that. Does anybody else have any? Oh, we've got Chris and Brandy, and I don't know if I have you in order, but go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to let's say I'll address 2 points. One is with regards to our previous topic, which was the how we compare the Barrie City Council compensation with the other townships and municipalities. Do we look at the growth of the other municipalities as well as their tax base and infrastructure in that regard, from the property tax standpoint? So I would want to see a little bit of cross-pollination on some similarities of how we are, from Barrie's perspective, measuring up against the other municipalities in those 2 areas. And with regards to Brian, that's the group benefits. I mean, that's my wheelhouse. I do that. I architect the group benefits and plans. So if you wanted to send our committee the group benefits booklet in a PDF form, I'll be more than happy to go through it tooth and nail and see. But I have experienced the same thing as you, or witnessed. Many companies have not had any increases in their in their group benefits at all, especially on the enhanced health care side of things. So massage therapists and all of that sort of good stuff. So we haven't seen really anybody increasing their coverages for that. So if you want to provide that to, I guess, Kelly, our chair, and then she can disseminate it out to the rest of us to look at it, I'd be more than happy to definitely give you a Coles Notes version in that regard. That's all.
Great, thank you, Chris. Brandy Lee.
Yes, thank you. I just have a quick question around, so you mentioned the benefits are optional. Do they have any pieces of the benefits that are mandatory, such as LTD or anything like that? And are they also at a 50%?
So there's like for council members, because they're not, they're part-time, they don't have access to long-term disability programs or short-term disability programs. It would be mainly around extended health and dental. And I believe they have a little bit of life insurance coverage as well. But I can send out the booklets and the details as Chris mentioned, and you can all have a look at that.
Just to build on that, Brian, we've also offered members of council a little bit of access to the EFAP program offered by the city as well.
Hi, Wendy. Could you break out that acronym, please?
It's like, oh my God, EFA. Brian, can you help me?
Yeah, the employee family and assistant employee family assistance plan. It's for program. I can't remember what the P exactly stands for, but essentially access to, it's like Morneau, Chappelle, or Homewood. Those, yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm trying to really, personally, I'm trying to get away from a lot of acronyms and jargon, especially when we stream to public. So I'm trying to be really clear on what we're talking about so everybody can understand it. So please put your hand up, and if you don't understand anything, and because I will, I have no qualms about it. So just for clarification, I think it's just really important for everybody on the committee, but also for the people watching as well, and hopefully listening to what we're doing. That's great. I guess the other thing that I was interested in, and I do have and design and development of surveys and lots of analysis tools myself in my own business, consulting and training. I think it's important that we get that feedback directly from the counselors. We come up with a series of questions, creating an analysis, asking them specifically, because it's important to get to the source and see what they feel about their time. I think is important, the time that they spend, at council, but also at committees, and how they feel their compensation is seen in their eyes. And, is that role that they see, are they spending 40 hours a week instead of 20 or whatever it is? I think those are important items also to capture. Brian, is that something that because I can certainly do it myself and develop it with the committee, the questions that we want answers to from the council members and send that out. I can help. I know you guys have a lot on your plate. So, but is that something as well that you guys can help facilitate or support?
I would say it would probably be a collaborative effort. I can certainly, if you give me some direction around the kinds of things you want to find out around, then I can have my staff put a draft together of some questions. I'd be interested in more details in terms of what you're trying to find out from the counselors. So, but yeah, we can certainly assist with that.
Good, thank you. Good. Okay, how are we doing? Anybody else have some comments or questions? Steve.
Yeah, just one thing. I just want all committee members just to keep in mind that there only is one taxpayer that's got to look at where the money's going to come from for any increase, whether it be tax increase, whatever. But there only is one There's no other money come from the federal government, no money come from the provincial government to this. So there's only one taxpayer that's responsible. That's the key.
Thank you. Anybody else have something they'd like to cover? I know it's a lot of information, and we'll have lots of questions, I'm sure, once we get all the documentation and packages. But if anybody has any questions at all, they can certainly reach out to me, and I can help find out what we need to know before the next meeting. But I guess we'll look forward to seeing all of those pieces of paper that we need to review in order to define where we're going. And if we could pick a topic perhaps for the next meeting that we want to discuss, any ideas or suggestions?
Kelly,
Wendy?
we could work with you as the chair and
Okay.
develop an agenda.
Okay, perfect.
And if any members of the committee, we don't have to put everybody on the spot today,
Yeah,
but since the meeting's a month away, we can, if anybody has any suggestions, they can just send them to Andrea, and then we can coordinate an agenda for the next meeting, because we don't want like thousands of topics coming on the next
Yeah.
agenda, because we have to manage them a little bit. What I was going to say is that any information, so if any member of the committee emails and asks for information, we will send it out to the entire committee so that everybody has the same information. So if somebody sends it out to Andrea, like a question to Andrea, we'll send it to everybody so that everybody's coming into the meeting with the same information.
That's great. Super. Thanks, Wendy. Okay.
Chris has his hand up.
So Wendy, if I'm understanding you correctly, all of our questions are going to be directed to Andrea first to disseminate to the rest of the committee?
Yes, that would be helpful if we focus sending all our questions to one person, because then Andrea can reach out to myself, Brian, or Melissa, to whomever the expert is, get an answer, and then send it to the whole full committee. Then that way we can kind of keep track of what the committee is asking, what answers are being given, and then just to ensure that everybody is coming into each meeting singing from the same song sheet.
Perfect.
So Wendy, the agenda is finalized 4 days prior. Was that what I read?
The agenda is published 4 days prior, but we would like any agenda items at least a week before those 4 days, if not longer, because in that way too, it gives me and Andrea an opportunity to reach out to Brian and Melissa if we need to make sure that they're prepared for whatever items that you want on the agenda, so that we can come to the meeting and that they're prepared to answer your questions. We're prepared to provide you the information that you want on the agenda, like discussed at the meeting. And then that way, that kind of saves a bit of time at the meeting, and we can have more fulsome discussions.
Okay. And just for clarity again, who's capturing the minutes and when are they published?
Andrea is capturing the minutes for us, and we generally publish them within a week or so after the meeting.
Okay,
And they're on our Legistar web, like our agendas and minutes page on the website.
And so that's where we would go to look for them. They don't get sent directly to us as a summary of the meeting?
No, we don't generally circulate the minutes. But they'll also be included on the general committee agenda. Likely these ones, since it's pretty generic meeting, we'll probably have those for the 13th, but they'll just be received by general committee since we didn't really make any recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like we're good to go. Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Thanks. So let's narrow down for our next meeting. What will be the topic, and what do we need to prepare for?
I think
obviously my suggestion would be to start with one of the topics that'll be longer drawn out, that we can't make a decision very quickly on, that a lot of homework will need to be made. So probably starting with the surveys to the counselors and that sort of stuff, or the other the other municipalities would probably be a good first meeting to have. And then, as Brian pointed out, probably looking at the health benefits would probably be another good starting point as well.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. I think, Wendy, were we going to work together to figure that out for the next meeting? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're fine with Chris's suggestions, we can certainly put those on the agenda. We just don't want to overload the agenda.
Right.
But I think those are three great topics because Brian has the information pretty readily available, I'm assuming, and the questions will take a meeting or so to develop. So I think those are great topics for the first meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. That's great. So we'll talk about data collection, I guess, then that's what we're focusing on is data collection, right? Getting it from the municipalities, defining what those questions are, and then hopefully defining what it is we need to survey the existing counselors as well. Good.
And I think also understanding the current status of things, to know what's good, what's not so good, what do we need to work on, what questions do we need to ask. I think it'd be good to get like a baseline of what's in place now, and to give us some focus in terms of what we're focused at, what we're looking at.
Do you mean, Danielle, do you mean the baseline of the existing compensation package? Is that what you're?
Yeah, compensation
Yeah.
package, and then also to further to what Brian was telling us about the benefit information. So, along with the benefit handbook is also kind of, I think there's also like usage, there's target loss ratios and kind of what the usage is of our current benefits, and, any commentary as it relates to, from Brian being a compensation and benefits expert, kind of his opinion on it in terms of understanding the market and the trends, and maybe some of his recommendations as well, and as any feedback that we may have heard as well, so that the finished product and recommendations address the questions and concerns that have been brought up.
That sounds good. Yeah. So that information package will be sent out prior to our next meeting. So we'll have an opportunity to review that. We'll review the existing package that the counselors have. I'd also be interested to know how many of the counselors actually utilize the benefit package. If they're paying a 50% premium, I'm not sure if everybody does. I understand quite a few of the counselors have full-time positions elsewhere. So they may not access the benefit package at all. And I think also it's important to consider moving forward and looking forward as we grow as a city, ensuring that we have counselors in place and benefits in place that attract people to apply and sit on city councils. So these roles are sometimes difficult political roles to get good people on. So how does that reflect in attracting good people that want to apply? And what benefits do they offer? So it'd be very interesting to kind of look at it from that perspective as well as we grow as a city, ensuring that our citizens are being looked after. And as Steve said, in a very financially cohesive way. Good. Are we all good? Great, thank you, super. All right. Any other items? And if not, we will adjourn. Wendy, just tell me if I'm doing this wrong.
You as the chair can just adjourn the meeting if there's no other questions. So you don't have to get a mover or seconder. You can just adjourn the meeting.
I appreciate your expertise. Good. All right. So the next time we meet then will be on Friday, October 1st at 2 p.m. Any questions or issues that you might need we're going to send those to Andrea, who is going to help us out, and we will receive the information and have a review of that information before we're at our next meeting, and which our next meeting, we will address those two issues of the data collection for like municipalities, as well as a potential survey to existing counselors on how they're doing and how they're feeling about their roles and responsibilities and timeframes, because I think that's an important piece as well. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Wendy, so much. Andrea, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Perfect.
you. It was nice
Thank
to meet
you.
you all.
Thank you.
We'll see you in
Thank you.
October.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.